All right. Hi everyone. I'm here with three people for the first time. Three people. We've got Ben Fox. Most of you guys know Ben. He coaches the ladies team in Plymouth, and he works with a lot of the primary school kids. And I've got a special guest. I've got Coach Jacob, who's come down. Well, he was in DC doing a skills camp, and he's just literally come over just to see us and talk basketball, which is really, really cool. So thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
I would going to start basically because nothing is planned. Who are you? What do you do? Tell the world.
Well, my name is Jacob Jonas. I work for a program called One-on-One Basketball in Washington, D.C., and we arrange youth basketball programs for kids in the Washington, D.C. area.
Right. Okay.
So it can be from individual instruction, as skills classes, after-school hoops, and we have a presence all across the United States, and our president and founder, Arthur Jackson, has brought teams internationally. So he may have come to England at some point, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he's come to England at some point.
So, because I'm going to target you straight away, because you deal with the young kids from, how old are the primary school kids that you teach?
Year 3 and 4.
Which is 6, 7?
6, 7, 8. Maybe
Okay.
7, 8.
7 and 8. So if you were to say to Ben, 7-year-old, doesn't have a clue what he wants to do, walks in, you got to do a basketball session with him. How do you make that 7-year-old love the game within a 2-hour period?
Well, the first thing I want to do, and Ben and I were talking about this earlier, is just to get him or her really excited about being in the gym. So what I would do is, as far as shooting is concerned, make sure they're shooting close to the basket, because a lot of young players want to run out to the three-point line and shoot really long shots, and they might make one or two, but they're probably going to miss the rest of their shots, and they won't be so happy leaving the gym. So I would get them shooting the ball as close to the basket as possible, working on getting their confidence up, and then also just becoming confident with the ball, dribbling the ball, and just having fun being in the gym, so they'll come back.
Yeah, so is it kind of like less basketball and more fun with basketballs?
I would say for the first-time player, yes. You want to get them excited about the game, because they're choosing between a lot of different sports.
Yeah.
And I think the excitement about basketball and the excitement that can bring you. So just to get, for example, if you have...
I might have to wait a minute until... It's going to be noisy.
Okay.
I'll be fine. I'll figure it out. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So if you have 12 players in the gym, you definitely want to have at least 12 basketballs.
Yeah.
So each of the kids have a basketball in their hands for the duration of the time.
Got you. Okay. So like, what do you? So that you have that, don't you? You have classes for everyone. What's like the biggest challenges you've come up against with young ones, and maybe we can try and solve it right now.
I think it's the shooting. Like when they can't make a basket even close to the basket, that's quite an issue. That knocks them quite a bit. I don't think that people understand that. Like they don't always show it.
Yeah.
But they will. Like that does knock their confidence. Like that can throw them off in a session.
So I guess for like a 6-year-old, the aim of the game is to put the ball in, right? And if they can't do that, then the game sucks.
Yeah.
Necessarily, right?
In their head, that is what they think.
Well, the one way that you combat that, though, is you can limit the number of shooting drills that they do.
Right.
So you can have most of the drills to be dribbling drills, passing drills, maybe some defensive drills. Kids get really excited about rebounding. Doesn't matter how big you are, you can try to hustle after the ball.
Yeah, okay.
So
maybe rolling the ball and jumping and grabbing it.
I normally go, my first session I normally do in the school is always ball handling. Always. It never ever anything else.
Any particular reason?
Just because that's the first thing that they're going to do, really. Like, as soon as they catch the ball, they're going to want to bounce it.
Yeah.
So that's why I normally do it. I normally start with just touch stuff, just like touching on the fingertips, throwing, catching, things like that. Then I normally get them to dribble in, and then from that I just go from there. But it depends on the group as well.
Because I guess you've probably come out like with the young kids, obviously they're weak. they're 6 years old.
Yep.
And most places don't adapt, especially in England, they don't adapt to younger kids. They have a basketball hoop and it's like 10 foot high. And you got a 7-year-old who's like,
right.
he's never going to get it. So, like, the whole working on technique and stuff like that goes out the window.
The only way I've ever combated it, I don't know if it's combated it, but was I put a hula hoop on the basket. So I got up on a bench and I fed the hoop through the basket so it was hanging. So they had to throw the ball through the hula hoop. So if you have the hoop here,
so they got more of a sense of achievement.
Yeah. So even though they're not actually making a basket, they're still having to throw the ball.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
I actually stole that from somebody else. I can't take that. I can't take credit for that being my own idea, but
we'll edit that bit out. There's lots of people come and see, might not hear us again. We'll edit that bit out and we'll pretend that's your idea. I won't.
Yeah, I wasn't going as far as a hula hoop. I was thinking more like set up a garbage can or something.
No, I was just watching a video one day.
Just so there would be some level of accomplishment.
Yeah, it's just an idea I got from somebody.
I
saw them do it, and then I was like, that's actually a really good idea.
But I remember when I was a kid, like I lived in a real small little village in England, and a basketball hoop, we'd be lucky if we had a football goal. Right? So you draw a square on a wall and you throw it at the wall.
Target.
Yeah. So I actually do have a question for you both. What is your opinion on kids at that age shooting like that?
No, because I just think at that age I don't even touch technique personally.
So do you mind them throwing it like that?
Oh, you mean throwing it under?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't like that.
Under.
No, I don't like that. If they're gonna shoot, I'd rather them shoot above their head because at least they learn it's got to go from above their head. If they start shooting like this or like this, and I'm like, no, above your head. So even if they got to do a throw-in, but that's fine. But I don't know, it's difficult. I don't go into technique with 6 or 7 year olds, really.
I would say underhand would be okay if that is the only possible thing that they could do. If they're 3, 4, 5 years old and you have a smaller target, you have a lower basket. But once you get to 6 or 7 years old, you got to figure out a way to either to lower the basket or to lower the target.
I guess it's what you're trying to achieve, isn't it? And what level you're trying to play at. Like if you're turning up in a really small school and the kids want to have some fun and feel like they've achieved something, and you say that ball has to go in there, you figure it out. I think it's okay. But I think if you start talking like an under 12s or an under 11s team,
right, that's different.
Yeah, you've got a different story, right? It's a bit more adaptable. But I don't know. I just like the whole idea of it coming above their head. They've got to understand it's got to go up to come down. But I suppose you do get that with that.
Yeah, I think if it's your only option, like I see a couple. There's some games going on behind us right now, and there's some really, really small players, and you might not be able to see them on the other court. But there are some really, really small players on the other court, and to me, if their choice is I shoot the ball overhand, I can't shoot the ball overhand, I can't reach the basket, or I'll have a chance to make a basket, I'll shoot it underhand, then there's more of a chance that they're going to go home to their parents and say, I want to sign up for basketball again and come back. Yeah. So if that's my choice, I'd rather have them shoot whatever way they want to so they can come back. Now, once they get to 11 or 12, they get more competitive. You can't have kids shooting underhand because they're not going to be able to succeed with that.
Because I guess we're talking about having fun, aren't we? They're 6 years old, they're going to have fun. If you can adapt maybe the area around you, like you did a great job. Putting that big hoop in makes a big sense of achievement.
That's fantastic.
I like that idea. Yeah, that's really cool actually.
And you can just reach up yourself, even bar limited height.
I had to stand on a bench, but
so you hang it over the rim.
Yeah, over the rim. So
between the backboard and the rim, the metal piece right there, you hang it right there. So they're throwing it through, and then they can throw it overhand.
That works.
There you go. Solves the problem.
I don't do it enough.
Solves the problem. That's a great idea.
I don't do it enough, but I can't take credit for it. But the person who came up with it, thank you.
Well, if we can't name them, you could take credit for it.
That's true.
That leads on though. Actually, that leads on to something because I love this with all the coaches. And we talked about it earlier about guys coming up with crazy ideas and all sorts of stuff for drills for young kids, for older kids. I believe it's very rare. Everything comes from something in drill. So if you make a drill, it probably comes from a setup or a line or an organised thing that you've seen somewhere before. Like, do you adapt your drills in a certain way? How do you read the game and then do your drills, or what do you try to achieve with it?
I think it kind of depends on the level.
Yeah.
Ben and I were talking about this before, where if you're dealing with pros, and this is their job, this is their profession, this is their livelihood, what I like to do is watch them play, and then adapt the drills to how they play.
Yep.
To help them individually.
Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. I think that's.
And then also, if you're getting to the point where you have a team game, it starts at 11 or 12 years old, you start to have organized plays. I like to run drills that adapt to those plays.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a puzzle where you have the plays are the full puzzle. The drills have to be those puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
If they aren't related to if the drills aren't related to something that players are doing in the game, something the coach wants them to do, then
so game's led approach for it,
Right.
But then if you're talking, then if we go back down to that 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever age, then do you try and put stuff in play with them not knowing it, but it does relate to a game, and subconsciously they understand? So if you're running a dribbling drill, do you run a dribbling drill down the middle of the court, or do you run it lengthways, widthways, down the wings, or do you just then dribble?
I think if they're just starting and they're young enough, it doesn't really matter where you are on the court, just to get them used to used to different drills, used to different terminology, used to different areas of the court.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
We've got a guy in Plymouth called Phil who runs the mini sessions for us. So Ben goes around to the schools and he does all the in-school work, and we've got Phil runs like a Saturday morning mini session, and he does great stuff. Like he finds like party games and adapts them to be like basketball. And like that stuff to me is, and that's a real skill. That's a real skill, because that works as well, and they have fun doing it. You've got things like throwing little flags up in the air, and they've got to dribble the ball and go catch it, and the whole duck goose type thing, all that sort of stuff. And that stuff works.
Yeah, and all those things can really help kids have fun with basketball. One thing I wanted to mention before I forget, I got this drill from Kenny Smith, former NBA champion, current commentator. Yeah. He had a great drill. I'll never forget this. I saw him at a camp. And he used to have a friend in Queens that was a rapper, but wasn't a very good basketball player. And Kenny Smith is a really good basketball player, but not a very good rapper.
I could imagine, yes.
So what he would have is, he would have his friend make rap songs, and then Kenny Smith would dribble the ball to the rhythm of the rap. And I thought that was one of the coolest ideas. I haven't seen it in too many places.
You could adapt that to kids, couldn't you?
But what you can do with kids...
You could, because they do singing in school and stuff, so you could do that.
So what you can do with kids, and I thought about this for the youngest age group, one of the first, and it doesn't even have to be a rap song, it could be any kind of song. One of the first songs any kids learn in school is the alphabet song. So if you can imagine, you dribble the ball, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X,
I don't know if I'm more impressed you got the alphabet right.
Yeah, it's
great.
And it's one of those things that any player, boy, girl, whatever age, it could be us three in a gym having fun with the ball. It could be a 5-year-old having fun with the ball. You could just say, make up your own words and dribble it to the rhythm, and then you're increasing your coordination. But I just wanted to give Kenny Smith that credit, and I wish that he would talk
I don't think he'll hear it.
I wish that he might. You never know. This video goes viral. You never know. But he talked about that at camp. It was a long time ago, and I just always thought it was great because any player of any level can have fun with that, and it's like a party game. It's like your friend, you know, kind of modifying something that kids are familiar with, and putting it into basketball instead of just them coming into a gym and there are all these different concepts they've never heard about before. It's like, okay, let's do duck, duck, goose, but with basketball. So they get comfortable.
How structured would you make a session for sort of young children, like really young children?
I would go between having a few minutes of structure, but then a lot of
mayhem,
playtime, fun with the ball. Yep.
Do you do anything different? Do your school sessions structured? Are they, let's see where this takes us, or?
Yeah, I like to, with schools coaching, go off the mood of the kids. Because if they're in a good mood, and they're in the mood to actually do stuff, then you can make it as structured as you want to, but sometimes if they're in a bad mood, they just want to play games. So we play games like hot seat, dribble, like cut catch, stuff like that. Because sometimes that's just what they're in the mood to do, and I find you get more out of that with them than you do trying to force them.
How would you? So if they play, let's say they play clap catch. Have you ever done that? You know what we mean by clap catch? You got to pass the ball and the kid's got to clap before they catch it.
Okay. That's clap catch.
Yeah. Okay. Simple as that.
It is as simple as that.
But I find that kids could be sometimes if they enjoy it once, they'll keep going with it. Like they'll keep going with it. So do you ever try and adapt those drills to make it like another level type thing to do?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
It
just depends what I want to
get them out their comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes. Or I just come up with something new for that skill.
Yeah.
Or I'll try and bring another game in.
Right. Okay.
But I don't mind them repeating it. To be fair.
No. Okay.
Because especially with schools coaching, the point of it is to get them into basketball. So if I have to do 100 games of hot seat with a group of kids for them to then go, Mum, I want to go to a Raiders game, and then that sparks the love, then I'll get that. I'll do whatever
That makes sense, yeah, that does make sense. So, they've had fun, they've played hot seat and clap catch and rap songs, and then, I don't know what in the States, but in England they start to get pretty serious about basketball, probably at 11, 12 years old, and they can start playing for like an under-12s team, or they can still do recreational sessions. And then move it from the 16s, under 18s, and so forth. So when do you start like really making it game orientated?
I think by 11 or 12, if they're ready when they're younger than that, and then you take the 8 or 9 year olds and you play them with the 10 or 11 year olds.
Yeah.
But I would say once you hit about 10 or 11, I would say that you can put in. You can put in some structure, but not too much. I think a lot of youth coaches get into the structure, like the whole, a lot of coaches like to say, I want to teach the kids how to play, I don't want to teach them plays. So you need some structure, because on a certain competitive level, you're going to be playing against teams where in order to win, you need structure against those better teams. But for the most part, you want to be teaching them just basic skills and trying to get them to execute them the best that they can.
The last interview I spoke to Coach Mackey, and we talked about that America's got away with athleticism for a long, long time, and people are slowly starting to catch up. There's more European guys coming to the NBA draft, more guys from Africa, everything like that. Do you think skills is a missing trait in USA youth basketball?
I think, and this is a great question, and I've thought this for a long time. I think the difference in the American developmental system and the European developmental system is this. You have a coach in the United States. He's coaching the best 12-year-old in the United States.
Yeah.
He is trying to win as many 12-year-old national championships as he can with that 12-year-old.
Because if he doesn't, you're fired.
Because that's how coaches in the United States get judged, even youth coaches, for the most part, not for all the parts, but for most part, on winning. If you are in England and you are coaching if you are in England and you are coaching the best 12-year-old in England, he is going to, or she is going to be playing with 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds.
We play guys up. Well, if they're good enough, they're old enough.
And we have in the United States, we have all this age group classification, and if you win, you play the 15 under, you play the 14 under, and we were talking about Luka Doncic before, and the example that I used, and it was a long time ago when I used to coach a hoop group, was Pau Gasol. And when he was 13 years old, where did he grow up in? Spain. Madrid, Barcelona.
I don't know, actually.
Barcelona. Okay. When he's growing up in Barcelona, when he's 13, he's playing against professionals. If you're in the United States and we've got a 13-year-old Pau Gasol, he's not allowed to play against professionals.
He just goes out and gets like 50 points against other 12-year-olds.
Because he's not allowed. Because the rules are that the local NBA team, and I think owners like Mark Cuban and other owners are trying to change this. They're trying to go more toward the academy model.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that long ago when John Lucas was the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
And he had LeBron James come in and practice with him as a 15-year-old high school player. And LeBron James was better than most of his pros. And I don't know if it was against the rules at the time, but it's against the rules now.
Yeah.
And even before that, and I was reading about this in Showboat, great Kobe Bryant biography, when Kobe Bryant was 15, 16 years old in Philadelphia, and John Lucas was the head coach of the 76ers, he would have Kobe Bryant come to practice with the 76ers. And now you can't do that because it's against the rules.
And you get fined.
I think it's incredibly, it's just backwards. I read something about that there was I want to say a tennis player in the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And she is maybe it wasn't the U.S. Open, but
it was Wimbledon.
It was one of the.
Yeah, no, she was she 15 or younger?
It was a different player. She's going to be a maybe it is the U.S. She's going to be a college player.
Didn't she beat Serena Williams at Wimbledon?
It wasn't her. It was someone else. But it's the same kind of thing where if you're a 15-year-old tennis player, you can compete in professional tournaments, and there's some kind of NCAA rule where as long as your earnings are limited to a certain amount, you're still allowed to compete against pros. Now, why are tennis players allowed to do that? And basketball players aren't allowed to do that. Football players aren't allowed to do that. So just going back to your original point about the about what we do developing players is, I just think the best players should be able to play with the best players. And if there are groups and organizations that, if they abuse that privilege and they break certain rules, then you deal with it. Then you sanction it. But you don't all of a sudden just say, well, LeBron James can't practice with the Cleveland Cavaliers because at the time he was 15 or 16, and we think for some reason we should keep them separated. Where in England, if you have a 15-year-old prodigy, if you have 15-year-old LeBron James, and the way Plymouth Raiders are going, there will be one day. He'd be playing with all the best players.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So that's the. What did Coach Mackey say about that? What was his opinion on that?
Well, he said that the skilled players are catching up with the athletes because the skilled players are becoming a lot more athletic, but they've got the skill base to go with it.
Wow. Okay.
And that's his opinion. He thinks they've been looking good on athletes for a long, long time.
Now, do you think that there are, because basketball is becoming more popular, that more of the better athletes internationally are now playing basketball instead of football or rugby? That basketball is getting the better athletes.
It's growing.
Do you think that's part of it?
I think it's it's the fastest growing sport at the moment in the United Kingdom. Which is really, really big. And that's in the schools and stuff like that.
Wow.
Which is great. I think there's more clubs now. There's more coaches now, but it's a tough gig in the United Kingdom because you could do what me and many of coaches have done. I coach for the club, and I've going into my 14th season. I don't get paid a penny, so I work a full-time job on top of that. And there's hundreds of coaches across the UK that do exactly the same, and they do it because they love it. But there's more of those people coming in now, which is it's getting there. It's growing. It's getting there. I think
it's so easy to access it as well. Like you can go onto YouTube now, and a 10-year-old could easily type in.
But it looks cool. Basketball looks cool.
Yeah.
The clothes they wear look cool. The trainers look cool.
Yeah.
The guys, there's a bit of it. It's like it's an in thing, isn't it?
The aesthetic.
Yeah, where you turn on, you watch cricket, and they're wearing these smart whites, and it's not quite as cool if you're a kid. Maybe I don't know.
So with the technology, kids are getting more exposure to basketball. So they're not just being told by a coach, "This is great. This is really fun." Maybe they hear about maybe they hear about LeBron James, or they hear about Michael Jordan. They don't have to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to watch an NBA game.
There's a lot more now. Yeah.
They could just type in Stephen Curry and watch Stephen Curry highlights. So maybe it's a consumption issue. They can consume the game whenever they want. Right?
I think that, especially in England as well, I think a lot of professional teams as well are catching up. Like I think one thing that separates Plymouth, you'll probably agree with me on this. I think one thing that separates Plymouth from other BBL clubs is our entertainment side. So when you come to a game night, it's not just the basketball. You've got the mascot, the cheerleaders.
That's crucial.
You know, I think other clubs are realising that now, and I think that helps draw people.
It's a show. It's a show, and you go to an NBA game or whatever. It's a show, and there's a bit of basketball there too.
And you have to do that because you've already got the basketball fans.
Yes.
In Plymouth and the area. They're going to come to the games.
Yes, they will. Yes.
But what are you doing to get those other people into the gym? And the really smart professional teams and even college teams, if you make it a fun experience.
That starts with you going to the primary school and the kids enjoying it by playing clap catch. That's where it starts. The kid goes back to mum. Mum goes, where can I watch basketball? Boom, there it is.
Now, when you go to do your programs with the clap catch and the other things that you like to do, are you armed with just gear and schedules and hats and all kinds of stuff, or is it just
you go to the game? And away we go.
You go to the game. You go there and you say, "Look us up." Look us up online or.
We don't at the moment, but we're changing it because we're running a new scheme. So we're going into, because obviously at the moment we kind of just offer basketball coaching. So we've taken a new approach where there's a program back home called Hoops for Health. So it's basically where you go into a school and you kind of do different stations. You do like a healthy eating station, like a healthy heart station, a basketball session.
We could all use that.
You might do like a bullying session, but the professional players would lead it, and then from that they get 4 weeks of coaching, and then they go in to get to come to the pavilions, have a tournament. So we, as part of that now, we give out things and stuff. But I think because we take the pro players into the schools, I think that sells it enough.
Yeah, little Johnny looks up to 7-foot guy and goes, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and the relationships they build within that is what gets them to want to come to the games. So I think we don't necessarily have to give out that initiative or have a free pen, as great as that is. I think, like you said, if little Johnny goes home to mum and says, "I met a 6'10" American basketball player," they're going to be like, "Oh wow, like that's amazing!" Like, and then one thing leads to another, and bang, you might have a family of 4 buying a season ticket the next season because.
Like, are you when you do your skills and drills, is it simple? Is it complex? Is it just how do you kind of put something together? How would you plan a drill?
I like to make it as simple as possible, unless you're talking about a high level professional player or a high level college player. Yeah. Anything, or even if it's a really high level high school player. Other than that, I want to make it as simple,
so quality,
simple as
quality
possible.
over quantity. Yeah.
Because the fundamentals are always going to show through, and the players have to have that foundation. What a lot of people don't understand is that these players that can execute these incredible skills on the court, underneath that, they're fundamentally sound. Like we were talking about. Like we were talking before. We were talking before about Kevin Durant. He's not doing fancy things out on the court.
Right.
It just looks supernatural because he's 7 feet tall and he can handle the ball and play like he's 6 feet tall. But if you really just watch him play, there are things that Kevin Durant does that you, as a 6-year-old, can follow.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people with someone like Kyrie Irving, who is just an incredible ball handler, a lot of people like to look at all of his fancy moves.
Yeah.
But if they watch him a little bit more,
they forget about how he gets there in the first place.
They watch him a little bit more, they can watch his basic inside out, crossover, behind the back, spin move, like those basic moves that we work on with maybe not a 6-year-old, but an 11 or 12-year-old. He executes those, and then he's able to put all of the more advanced and all the fancy moves on top of it.
I think with about 40 kids about to walk out the door, we might have to come to a close. If you were, right, last question, and hopefully we're good for it. If you were to give a young coach coming up through, Ben, myself, anyone, what would be the main piece of advice you would give that coach? One big piece of advice.
One piece of advice. I would say to watch as many games as you can and take notes while you're watching the game. So if you're watching an NBA game and you really want to study it, and you really want to get better, or whatever it is, it could be a Plymouth Raiders game, it could be a college game. Just to watch the game, study the game, take notes, write down your own ideas, write down plays that you like in the game. So that's probably more than one idea, but I would say just to study the game, just like you're trying, just like anything else. You're studying to be a doctor, you're studying to be a lawyer, you're studying to be whatever it is that you want to be. Just take the study of basketball seriously. It'll take you really far.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Ben.
I'll get one as well. There you go.